You ever notice how the people who work the hardest sometimes have the least to show for it? And the people who don't even look like they're sweating seem to be 10 steps ahead? You ever wonder why that is? It's not luck. It's not even timing. It's alignment. See, we've been told from the time we were kids, if you work hard, you'll succeed. But nobody told you that hard work is the entry fee, not the guarantee. Hard work gets you in the room, but wisdom, identity, and strategy keep you there. Because if effort was all it took, then every construction worker would be a millionaire. Every farmer would own a bank. Every nurse working double shifts would retire early. But it doesn't work that way. See, hard work is physical, but success, that's mental, it's spiritual, it's strategic. You can't outwork a broken mindset. You can't outrun wrong priorities. You can't keep plowing the same field and expect a different harvest. Some people are exhausted, not because they're lazy, but because they're using their energy on things that don't multiply. You're working hard, but you're not working aligned. Now let me break that down. You can work hard at digging a hole, but if your goal was to build a house, you just worked hard in the wrong direction. And that's what many people do every day. They give their best to what doesn't build them. They stay loyal to jobs that drain their gift. They chase approval instead of purpose. And the truth is, you can't build abundance from a place of survival. That's why when I say hard work isn't enough, I'm not saying stop working. I'm saying start aligning. Because the work you do from clarity will always outperform the work you do from confusion. You ever seen a person who doesn't even seem to be working that hard, yet everything they touch turns to gold? That's not magic. That's alignment. That's vision. That's identity. They know who they are, so they don't waste energy proving it. They know where they're going, so they don't waste time competing with people who aren't even on their path. You're working 14 hours a day to earn a living. They're working 6 hours a day to create a system. That's the difference. See, successful people don't just spend time. They invest time. They treat time like currency. Every hour they spend must bring a return. They don't wake up wondering what to do. They wake up executing what they've already decided to do. They don't just chase busy, they chase productive. So when I say hard work isn't enough, I'm not saying you should be lazy. I'm saying direction matters. Because hard work with no direction is like speed with no steering. Fast, loud, and going nowhere. You see, there's a point where you have to stop asking, how can I do more? And start asking, why am I doing this? That's where wisdom enters. That's where people separate themselves. The people who rise don't just grind, they think. They pause long enough to evaluate. Because success doesn't just belong to the hardest worker, it belongs to the most aware worker. If you spend all your time swinging harder but never learning how to aim, you'll stay tired and still miss the mark. That's why some people work all their lives and still don't see fruit. They never stop to check if the tree they're watering can even grow. See, when I talk about hard work not being enough, I'm talking about building capacity, because life will test you. Opportunities don't show up because you're tired. They show up because you're ready. You can't keep showing up with the same version of yourself and expect new results. That's not how growth works. Growth says you've done the work, now build the wisdom. Growth says you've shown up, now level up. You can't be working 8 hours a day and still be in the same place mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Something's wrong there. Because the purpose of work is not just to make a living, it's to make a difference. And when you start working from purpose, something changes in you. You stop begging for validation. You stop competing with people who don't even share your calling. You stop feeling the need to prove your worth through exhaustion. Because now you understand that your effort is not your identity. You're not valuable because you're always working. You're valuable because what you do matters. The moment you get that, your energy changes. You stop running everywhere. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop trying to be seen in every room because you understand what good is being everywhere if you're not effective anywhere. Some of you have been spreading yourself so thin that people get a little of you everywhere, but nobody gets the best of you anywhere. That's what happens when you think hard work alone is the key. Hard work is a door, but wisdom is the key that opens it. So from now on, don't just work harder, work better. Don't just show up longer, show up smarter. Ask yourself, what's draining me that doesn't deserve me? What's keeping me busy but not fruitful? What am I doing that looks impressive but adds no value? Because the truth is, the difference between the people who rise and the people who remain is not effort, it's focus. Let me tell you something about effort. Effort without elevation will wear you out. You've been doing the same thing, giving the same energy, using the same strategy, expecting a new result. That's not faith. That's frustration disguised as commitment. You see, at some point, you've got to stop trying to outwork the same level that broke you and start outgrowing it. Because there's a difference between laboring and producing. You can swing your hands all day, and if there's no direction, you're just making noise. You can't confuse effort with evidence. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean it's working. Most people keep repeating seasons because they haven't learned what the season came to teach. You've been working hard, but you're still in survival mode. You think success comes by doubling the effort. No, it comes by doubling the understanding. Understanding changes everything. That's why scripture says wisdom is the principal thing. Because wisdom gives you leverage. It gives you angles. It gives you shortcuts that don't cut your destiny short. You've got to understand, when you start seeing results, you'll realize success doesn't belong to the hardest worker. It belongs to the most intentional one. And the moment you realize that, you stop trying to prove your worth with effort. You stop trying to convince people you deserve it. You just start becoming the person who can handle it. Because when you get to a certain level, your problem is no longer effort. It's structure, it's system, it's sustainability. You can't build a skyscraper on a foundation made for a tent. And some of you, you're asking God to give you skyscraper blessings while still managing your life like a tent. You want the expansion, but you're not prepared for the elevation. Because elevation doesn't just change your view, it changes your pressure. You can't breathe at the top if you don't train your lungs at the bottom. And that's why some people fall apart when they finally get what they prayed for, because they never developed the discipline that could sustain it. Let me help you. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is protection. It guards what you've built. It keeps you from losing what your grind gave you. Hard work might open the door, but discipline keeps it from closing. And that's why I say hard work isn't enough, because there's a higher law that governs success. It's not the law of effort, it's the law of stewardship. What are you doing with what you already have? Before you ask for more, are you multiplying what's in your hand? Because life won't give you more if you keep wasting what you already have. We live in a generation that wants more but doesn't manage. They want results but don't refine. You can't expand what you refuse to improve. Excellence doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing right. And listen, there's a point where you realize the goal isn't to work harder, it's to become wiser. You can't scale ignorance. You can only repeat it. That's why you've got to take time to sit, to study, to strategize. Because if you don't plan your growth, life will plan your frustration. I've seen it happen too many times. People who outwork everyone but outgrow no one. They're still in the same position because effort without direction becomes a treadmill. You're sweating, you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. What I'm saying is, stop confusing progress with pace. Fast doesn't mean forward. When you start aligning your energy with purpose, things begin to move faster. Not because you're working harder, but because you're working right. There's a rhythm to results. You've got to catch it. Because when purpose and preparation meet, what used to take you years can happen in months. That's the power of understanding. That's the power of doing more than just working. That's the power of becoming. And I'll tell you what I've learned. You don't get rewarded for effort alone. You get rewarded for evolution. The moment you become better, everything connected to you must rise. Your income rises, your influence rises, your impact rises, because life always matches your internal level. If you want more, become more. If you want better, do better. If you want higher, think higher. Hard work might change your paycheck, but only transformation changes your person. And when you change, your whole environment has no choice but to follow. That's when you realize success was never out there. It was always in here. Inside your choices, inside your discipline, inside your ability to shift from working harder to working higher. Because there's a version of you that doesn't just work, it multiplies. That version of you is still waiting to be born, but it can't show up until you stop settling for the grind and start operating from grace. That's when life changes. That's when doors open. That's when you stop hustling for what's already yours and start walking in it. At the end of the day, all the strategies, all the systems, all the talk about discipline and wisdom, they don't mean anything if your heart's not right. Because success without peace is still failure. You can get the money, you can get the title, you can build the business, but if you lose yourself in the process, what did you really gain? See, I know people who are highly paid but deeply empty. People who are recognized by everyone but respected by no one, because they worked so hard to arrive that they forgot why they started. You've got to remember, the goal isn't just to be successful, it's to be whole, to be aligned, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you didn't trade your peace for progress. Because one day, all the noise will fade, the applause will stop, the numbers won't move you anymore. And in that silence, you'll have to sit with who you became while chasing what you wanted. That's why real success is not about accumulation, it's about transformation. You don't chase money, you attract it by becoming valuable. You don't chase opportunity, you prepare for it, so that when it shows up, you're already ready. You don't chase recognition, you let excellence speak for you. Because when you truly grow, you don't need to announce it. The results will testify. You've got to learn to slow down and listen. Listen to your mind, your spirit, your assignment. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing still serving who I'm becoming? If it's not, it's time to shift. Not out of frustration, but out of wisdom. You see, the higher you go, the quieter it gets. Because greatness doesn't need noise to prove its presence. The oak tree doesn't scream to show that it's strong, it just stands. And that's what I want for you, to stand. To stand in who you are, to stand in your purpose, to stand in your value. Because when you stand long enough, life starts adjusting to your posture. Hard work may get you started, but character, consistency, and clarity, that's what keeps you standing. You've got to understand, God didn't create you to live at the mercy of exhaustion. He created you to operate with wisdom, to move with precision, and to build with peace, because peace is the real proof of progress. So don't just grind, grow. Don't just move, master. Don't just chase, choose. Choose to be intentional. Choose to be excellent. Choose to operate at a higher frequency than frustration. Because when you make that shift, when your heart, your hands, and your habits align, life stops fighting you and starts flowing with you. And that's when you realize it was never about hard work alone. It was always about becoming the person who no longer has to try to succeed, because success has become who you are. That's where I'll stop. Because if you really heard me, you'll understand. This isn't motivation, it's instruction. And when instruction becomes action, transformation begins.